What's going on, guys? My name's Joe. You can find me everywhere online as Tattoo Theist. Today's going to be part 2 of the 5 reasons you should not teach religion to children. If you haven't watched part 1, there will be a card up there somewhere to go watch that and then come back here. This is going to be point 3, 4, and 5. And here we go. First point.
Kids will believe whatever you tell them, so don't lie to them. And this applies especially to those parents who are atheists themselves, but who want to raise their kids with religion. Kids are gullible. I mean, it's fun to mess with them. Do you remember reading Calvin and Hobbes, where Calvin would ask very good questions, but his dad would make up these crazy fictional answers just to mess with him? It was funny. But that trust can fade. If you want your kids taking you seriously later in life when the stakes are much higher, you can't lie to them from a young age. And that's a problem for religious parents, since religion is all about telling lies to anyone who will believe them. Parents teach religion to children in the hopes that they will eventually embrace the faith. They mean well, but it doesn't mean the religion isn't bullshit.
So he's made a couple of good points. Yeah, kids are gullible. Yeah, kids will believe whatever you want them to believe. And yes, indoctrinating children into lies would be bullshit. Who determines what are lies? I mean, look at politics even. Take spirituality out of it completely. We have a nation that is completely divided between red and blue. We have people who don't agree on things that there is video evidence for. We have all sorts of issues that are plain as day in our face and have nothing to do with whimsical beliefs about anything that parents are indoctrinating their children into believing based on their opinion on circumstances, situations, and placements in our country. So to push this kind of idea on religious people or religious parents in terms of their children and how they decide to raise them, I think is an asinine point, because we do it with politics even. Where I do agree is that if you are not being honest with your child about the fact that this is built on faith, that it is fundamentally unprovable, and that there is a world of vast spectrum of religious beliefs, ideals, and ideologies. I think if you are a parent and you're teaching your kids my version, not even Christianity, but my version of Christianity, whether you be Methodist, whether you be non-denominational, whatever it is, but you teaching your kids that this narrow part of Christianity and my narrow part alone is the only true Christianity, and moreover, the only true religion in the world, I think is irresponsible. And I think it's unwise. It's unintelligent, because as we spoke about in part 1, your kid is going to go out into the world, right? And then eventually your kid's going to learn other stuff. Right? And then eventually your kid's going to think you're stupid. Or at the very least, they're going to think you are ignorant, uneducated, and possibly a liar. I think the most important thing to do is to raise your kid with good values, because the baseline as a Christian, the Bible is full of baseline good values, good morals. And I know, haters, the Old Testament maybe doesn't seem so much, but most Christians are not worried so much about the Old Testament. Go talk to the Jews. Most Christians are on the New Covenant. They're in the New Testament. They're focusing on what Christ and the disciples taught. So teach your kid biblical values, but teach your kid at the same time that Christianity is a broad spectrum of beliefs within that one biblical text. Teach them that there are other religions. Teach them some of the validity behind other religions, because it exists. Do not teach your children to be closed-minded, because we don't live in a world anymore that works like that. We live in a world where your child is going to get torn apart. Their faith is going to be shook, rocked, if not destroyed. The more equipped you can make your child to understanding the realities of religion, of Christianity, and of everything outside of it, and how they're cohesive when they're not cohesive, and how that all works in an open, honest, transparent manner, then your kid will be set up for success going out into the world. Let your kid ask you tough questions and don't give BS Christian responses. Point number 2.
It suggests that faith is a virtue. We all want to raise kids who are creative and curious and imaginative, but religion often puts a halt to all of that. Religion teaches kids to be obedient and to take things on faith alone. You should never believe anything just because a figure of authority says so. I mean, that's unwise at best and dangerous at worst. And as a parent, you never know what messages your child is going to come across. You can't keep them in the bubble forever. You have to prepare them for what's going to come their way. You have to teach them how to discern whether or not an idea is true.
Now, I really agree with the vast majority of what he's saying in here. I think it is extremely dangerous for you to keep your children in a bubble. You need to expose your child to the real world. You need to expose your child to the real Christianity in all of its flaws, in all of its weaknesses, inconsistencies, and incoherencies. At the same time, faith is a virtue, and I'll tell you why. Faith is a virtue because faith fundamentally is built in things that are virtuous. But faith is not always virtuous. And if all you do is teach your child faith, then again, your child is doomed to failure. Your child will not be equipped to practice apologetics. They'll not be equipped to defend themselves. And eventually, under pressure, your child's faith will begin to crumble. And on the other end, if it doesn't begin to crumble, your child's faith will be built on nothing. It'll be built on what he's saying, indoctrination. Your child will believe in God, in Christ, in the Bible, because they were told to, not because they actually believe it. And I don't know about you, but for me personally as a parent, that is horrific. I want my daughter to have faith in God and in any other information she learns because she believes it, because she's looked into these things, she's studied them, she spoke to people, she's formed an opinion in an intellectual way due to and based off of information outside of her. Not based off of being told this is what it is, shut your mouth and believe it. Moving into the third and final point.
It teaches kids to accept bad explanations. Religion is a set of bad answers to good questions. Where did we come from? Why are we here? Where are we going? Why do bad things happen to good people?
That is trash. Okay, I agree with him on a lot of things. So I also feel the need to speak up when I think what he's saying is absolute garbage. The fact that those questions he just posed and our answers as Christians to them, unless you're giving cookie cutter Christian answers, then I agree with him. That's BS. But these are questions and answers that nobody has the actual answer for, right? Every different religion has their understanding, their belief of what the answers to these questions are. Do atheists have the answers to these questions? Not at all. They'll point at things like the Big Bang, sure, and then we get into the whole process of, cool, well, if you want to worship science and the Big Bang, then what caused the Big Bang? And we're backed right up into a corner. So no matter what you believe, whether you're an atheist, agnostic, Christian, Hindu, Muslim, whatever, you don't have the answer to this. So for him to sit there and pretend like Christians are stupid for having their own idea and understanding and belief on the answers to these types of questions, why do bad things happen to good people? I think Christians have a fairly good answer to that. I don't think atheists do. So here's a little pushback, because I know I've been agreeing with him a lot, but let's continue.
Those are great questions, and they don't all have answers. But religion has created answers based off of nothing. And people accept those answers because they don't like to live with uncertainty. But we shouldn't settle for bad answers when there are better ones out there. Or if there are no answers at all.
I would like to hear what the better ones out there are. I genuinely would. Not that Christianity's answers are the best, but they're answers. I don't see any answers for these things from atheists other than everything is random. Every single thing that happens is random.
Let's not stifle the incredible curiosity of children by giving them the answers to questions that they need to work out on their own.
Okay, but if the reality is there aren't answers to these questions, then no matter what you want to believe, a child is going to eventually migrate into some sort of belief system, even if it is atheism. The child is going to go, usually based off of sociological things, their sociological environment, whatever they're around the most. That is going to be the river in which they start to float down. And that's why everybody as a parent basically has this belief that they want to at least push their kid in the direction of what they believe. And the reality is, I don't care what this dude says. I don't know if he has kids, but he's definitely doing it with his own kids too. He's just doing it with non-belief. So it's not like you can leave your kid to figure it out on their own. They're not going to. Basically, every idea of what the answers to these things are has been talked about. So a child is going to adopt a belief system, period. So it's not a good argument.
But that's what religion does. Now, why am I telling you all this? Because I want to live in a world where children are taught how to think and not what to think. I don't want to live in a society where we just pass down bad ideas just because it's tradition.
To wrap things up, I agree with him here. I don't want to live in a world where children believe what they're told to believe. I want to live in a world where children are presented with information, presented with different sides of camps, different opinions, different ideas, different evidence, lack of evidence. I want to teach children to be critical thinkers, to be able to be presented with an array, a spectrum of different information, ideas, and beliefs. And I want to teach children to be able to critically analyze all of this data, all of these opinions, everything. And then, yes, come up with what they believe, because that is what I've done my entire life. And I have been on the Roman Catholic side to atheism and back. And what has helped me the most is when people are honest. And that is what we lack in our faith system. So as a parent myself, to a parent that you are, or that you're going to be eventually, or maybe the child that you are, be critical thinkers. Pass down that critical thinking to your children. Do not box them in to what you believe only, so they are unequipped and unprepared to go out into the world and defend anything. Teach them that there are flaws in your belief system. Teach them that there are not answers to some of these things. And when you have doubts about what Christianity teaches or about what your pastor teaches, be honest with your kids about it. Tell them why and allow them to make an opinion of their own. Bottom line is, be honest with your kids. Have serious, real conversations with your children about your religion, because the statistical probability of your beliefs specifically being the one true belief system of all of Christianity, of all of the world religions, is almost impossible. So you need to be open to nuance. You need to be open to different interpretations, and you need to not be such a hard ass about the fact that we don't have all the answers to these questions. And you need to pass down that open-mindedness to your children and teach them to think. If this is the kind of thing you're into, please leave a comment with a suggestion of another video I could do, or a link to another video you want me to respond to. Do the thumbs up thing, subscribe if you haven't already. I would appreciate it. But again, I love you guys. I will see you on the next one.